Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live. I am so sorry I am late. I don't even see what time it is on this laptop, but I do know that I'm late, and I apologize. I am having some technical issues. Hopefully, we can get through this live. I am home. I will try to keep my face down so that we don't have a glare. If I keep glaring, then I will take my glasses off. Okay, so first let's put the link up here. Okay, so there is a link. If anybody would like to join me up here on the stage, I would be very happy to have you come up here with me. My hair is a mess. I know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Hi, Tina. Welcome. How are you, honey? I don't know what to do with my hair. It's driving me crazy. It is too short and too long and too thin. But until I figure it out, I don't want to do anything to it. So that's where we're at with it. Okay, so boy, did I write a lot this week. Now, I did not get another pinwheel done because I was working on a test pattern, and the test pattern that I worked on was due today, and so I had to finish that up, so I did not get a pinwheel done. But I am not exactly following the schedule with the pinwheels because I plan on making my blanket bigger than the pattern, so I'll be doing extra ones anyway. I am doing well, Tina. Thank you. I've had an amazing week. I have met with people I haven't seen in years, or people who've been friends forever and a day, and it's been very uplifting and just blessing after blessing after blessing. And I am home now, trying to work on my RV again and get it fixed or make another plan. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. Hi, AJ. Welcome. No problem. I was late also, so I can't say anything to anybody who's being late. Now, if either of you ladies would like to join me up here, you can do that. Thank you. The link is in there. Hopefully it'll work for you. I've had some issues with it not working. So if that happens, just let me know. And I'll see if I can get it figured out for next week, because obviously I can't figure it out for right now. Oh, here it is. Okay. So how are your ladies' pinwheels going? Have we started on the blanket yet? Are you having any problems with it? I'm just a listener. You don't want to crochet with us, Tina? Come on. It's okay. I'm teasing. You can be a listener if that's what you'd like to be. I don't think there can be too many, can there? Not at all. How about you, AJ? Oh, that's right. And I will be starting mine tomorrow. Okay. So let's go back for a minute before we get started. Now, we had a thing about verse 28 in chapter 19, and that was about the 12 apostles and the 12 thrones that Jesus spoke about. Yeah, I understand that. I do. I understand that. So I did find out from Lottie, who left me a comment on, I think, the live when she watched the replay. And she said that the 12th apostle was Paul. I forget that Paul was not one of the original. But yeah, so that is the 12th apostle, because I had brought the question up last week about there were 12 apostles. Judas was one of them. So what was the thing with Jesus saying that there were 12 thrones for the 12 apostles? The 12th apostle is Paul, and that's why there are 12 thrones there. So, anything that you found out, AJ, that you want to comment about from last week? I know there was something else, but I didn't mark it well or something because I couldn't find it when I was going back through my notes. So I don't know if you remember what that was or not. No. Okay. So, chapter 20. So I, put right to start off with, what are your thoughts about this chapter? Isn't that nice of me to ask you your thoughts before we even talk about it, huh? Okay. Sorry, I have to kind of, I've been scattered all day today. Yeah, I thought there was another one, but like I said, I couldn't find a little asterisk or anything, which is how I usually make a note of it. But so chapter 20 talks about, I didn't write what the parable was, but I did put that there wasn't really anything to say about it. But then I wrote, I believe it explains our entry to heaven. So I'm getting my journal. Okay. So if I remember correctly, based on what I wrote, it's about the landowner who hired people first thing in the morning, then went back out a few hours later and hired a bunch more people, and did this throughout the day until the last people that he hired only worked for an hour, and everybody got paid the same wages for the day. And there was some bad feelings about that. So I put that I believe it explains our entry to heaven. Some are saved as young adults or even children, follow Jesus, serve him all their adult lives. And then there are those who are saved in the last minutes of their life and get to go to heaven. I personally have never really thought about that being fair or not fair. I'm just thankful that they did it before it was too late and they got to go to heaven. And some of us hear the word and respond to it sooner than others. Some of us, we need to be beat over the head a few times before we get it. I personally was saved as a young adult. I'm not sure how to say this nicely, but I had a disagreement with God, and I broke away for many years. And although I did that, I was very aware that he was still active in my life. In fact, he saved my life during that kind of breakup, if you will. Or maybe I wouldn't be here today. And then I wouldn't have, I don't know where I would be in the grand scheme of things, because I was not being a good Christian. I was very, very angry. And yeah, we had a father-daughter fight, if you will. Anyway, any thoughts about that? Anybody have any thoughts? Have you ever gotten angry with God? And or have you ever thought about that some people serve God and do his will all their adult life, and then there are other people who sin the majority of their adult life, and in the last minutes of that life, they ask Jesus to come in their heart and are saved and go to heaven? Any thoughts? Any comments? Anything? AJ writes, I thought the same thing when I read it, that it just meant it did not matter when you accept Jesus, you are saved from that minute on. Yeah. It just never occurred to me that I should be, angry or jealous or resentful or anything for somebody who did it in their last, minutes, as opposed to someone who did it much younger. Of course, I guess that would depend on if you think serving Jesus is a burden or not, which I don't. So, and I don't know where I wrote it, somewhere, probably I'll come up to it later. The other thing is that those of us who Jesus sooner in our life get lots of rewards. We get to experience his peace that is beyond all understanding, and frequently get blessings and whatnot in our lifetime, whereas those who don't worship him and don't come to him until the end of their life don't get to experience those things that we had the opportunity to experience. So in that respect, I think, that it's better for us, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it would depend on who you speak to, because I unfortunately married my second husband, used to worship Satan, and I was unaware of this at the time that I married him. I met him in a church, and his family was very religious, and I just never really thought about it being anything other than that, and had really never met anybody who worshiped Satan. I'm sure that he would say that his life was much better worshiping Satan than had he been worshiping Jesus. But, that is, his opinion as being unsaved. Hello, Maritza. How are you? Welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, so if there's nothing else on chapter 20, we will move on to chapter 21. Wait, let me make sure that I'm in chapter 21 because I write things really weird. Yes, so in chapter 21, I put for verse 21, again, he says, if you have the faith and do not doubt. So last week it was, if you have the faith of a mustard seed. This time it is, if you have faith and do not doubt. Verse 22, if you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Now this is a kind of a hot verse in that it is debated quite openly and often. So of course I did some research, and what I found said this. James tells us that prayer is never to be used for our own lust or desires or to enrich ourselves. He says, you ask and receive not because you ask amiss, that you might consume it upon your own lust. That's in James 4:3. The purpose of prayer is not really to act, is not really to get my will done. The purpose of prayer is to get God's will done. And then it goes on to say, and of course, again, this is from the Blue Letter Bible. It goes on to say that the disciple, the person who has denied himself to take up his cross to follow Jesus, is more concerned with God's will than his own. And that man has power in prayer. And his promise is for that man. It's not a general promise to just anybody or any of us. So, in verse 44, we say, anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone whom it falls will be crushed. Let's see what I wrote. I have to read this. So it says that when I was looking for explanation on that, or an elaboration of it, it says you're going to have one of two relationships with Jesus, either as Lord and Savior or as your judge. If you fall upon him in repentance, of course, you're going to be broken, but come into new, full, rich life. But if you go to him as your judge, it's a whole different scenario, isn't it? Anything, any of you ladies that would like to add to that chapter? I was kind of hit and miss this week. There were chapters that I wrote a lot about, and I had a lot to say and a lot of thoughts going on. And there were chapters that I really struggled with writing something, and then I'd have to go back and reread it and try again to write. I don't know. It was just a weird week. I mean, I did. When did I get home? I got home on Friday. So most of the week I was still traveling, and I was doing a lot of driving, and it was raining. And so my study time, I felt like, was not as focused as it had been in the weeks beforehand. But I anticipate that they will get better again. I mean, we're all going to have off weeks where we're not quite as focused as other weeks. And this was mine. Anything anybody'd like to say? No? Okay, so chapter 22, we have the wedding parable. So when we look at that and try to break it down, the father of the groom or the bride, I'm not sure which, invited all these people that he thought would be coming to the wedding, and they weren't showing up. So he sends people out again saying, the food is ready. We're ready to celebrate. Are you coming? Let's, join the party. AJ writes, what I found interesting in this chapter was when they questioned Jesus, who gave him his authority, and he asked in a way that they had to step back. Yeah, I really like when they ask him a question and he comes back at them with a question, which of course they never want to answer, right? Because they're always worried about what their answer is going to say about their beliefs. So they're always afraid to answer the questions that he puts to them. So back to the wedding parable. So then the parent of the bride and or groom, if they would have answered, they would have had to admit they knew who sent John the Baptist and therefore already know who sent him. Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't want to do that. They most certainly did not want to do that. So I think the wedding parable for us, okay, wedding, thank you, is that, first Jesus brought the gospel to the Jews and they refused it, right? Next, the apostles preach to the Jews after the death of Jesus, and they still refuse to come. Then the gospel is brought to us, the general population. The thing that I find interesting is that even though we're invited to the feast and taught the gospel, we still must wear the proper garments, as did the one guy who wasn't dressed appropriately for the wedding. And what I found it said is that it is necessary that we are clothed in the righteousness which is of Christ through faith. Right? It's not okay for us to say we believe in Jesus, or we believe Jesus is the Son of God, and that's as far as it goes. No, we still have to wear the proper garments, which is our cloak of righteousness that we have gotten from Jesus because of our faith. So it went on to say, there will be those trying to come clothed in their own righteousness, efforts, or works. And we see that, I think, today. They'll never make it. If you are not clothed in that robe of righteousness through the faith of Christ, you will be cast out. I mean, that's just a plain, straightforward warning of the Lord. I mean, can't be any simpler than that. For many are invited, but few are chosen. That's true. Many are invited and few actually choose to go. Oh yeah, so I made a slide, but I can't show you. Let's see if I can pull it up on my phone without my phone echoing on us. Because I did not send it to me because, I had issues, and so I didn't have time to get on in time and do this. But I did make a slide. Let's see if we can see it. So this is a fill in the blank. Now, I've heard from people that they love the fill in the blank. So can we see that? So can we fill in these blanks? Love the Lord your what? Oops. Hold on. Right. Love the Lord your God with all your what? I'm not very steady, am I? Heart. Okay. With all your, what else? Hi, Denise. Welcome. Thoughts and actions. Okay. Mind. And what's the last one? soul. Very good. Thank you, AJ. So this is the first and greatest commandment. And that's from Matthew 22:37 and 38. I have another slide for you guys. And here you go. Oops. And the second is like it. Love thy what? As what? Neighbor, yes, neighbor. As yourself, right? Or ourselves, depending on what you're reading. Or thyself, could be that too. And that's 39 and 40. So what do you guys think? Do you like the little fill in the blank thing? Or should I skip it for in the future? I mean, I would try to get it together and have it on the screen for you, but, you know, what can I say? Okay, is there anything anybody would like to add about chapter 22? You like it, Tina? Thank you. I thought it would make it a little more interactive than just me talking. Okay, so for chapter 23, now I did not write much about chapter 23 other than this chapter is really the warnings against hypocrisy. 1 through 12 was for the multitudes and or the disciples, and 13 on were for the Pharisees. I didn't really write anything, but I think that I have a tendency that if I know what it says and it's kind of familiar to me, then I kind of don't write a lot on it. And if it's not as familiar to me and or I had a question or something pop up significant, then I will write more. I wrote down the line, "He is not the God of the dead, but of the living." This really stuck with me. Yeah. And that's true. He's not the God of the dead, but anything else? Okay, chapter 24. I think an important warning for all given here was to watch out for the false prophets and that they will perform great miracles. I mean, we see this over and over and over again in, recent history, or maybe not that recent, but AJ wrote, I wrote down a lot of the parables in chapter 23 I have a page and a half. And that's good because I think that that's good, AJ, because the parables teach us, it's God, it's Jesus talking to us and not being exactly direct, but kind of making us think about what does he mean by it. I think that's my personal interpretation of what the parables are written for, is for us to think about what he means by them. And of course, he's putting it in a way that all of us can generally understand the parable. It's getting it to what it means for him and us that sometimes is a little bit tricky. Anything you want to talk about? Was there a parable you particularly liked or disliked? Plus, he is telling to the teachers of the law and the Pharisees so they can see what they are not doing exactly. But they got it. That's a funny part to me, kind of, is that they actually got it. They knew exactly that he was talking about them to them. It's not like it went over their head, because it didn't. Okay, so for chapter 24, oh, I already said that, didn't I? And then he goes on to talk about and answer the question for the disciples of how we're going to know when he's coming. What are the signs going to be? AG writes, for those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Exactly. That's around the whole pride thing. So he talks about the wars, but then kind of alludes that that's not the beginning of the signs that he's coming back. But did you know that there's in the history since Jesus was here, 13 years of war for every 1 year of peace? That's a lot of war. That's a lot. I didn't realize it was that much. Okay, so then he starts to explain the signs that are going to, he said they are part of the beginning of the birth pains. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then he says the sun will be darkened, the moon is not going to give light, the stars will fall from the sky, and then the Son of Man will appear in heaven. So basically it's going to be total blackness. And then when he comes, can you imagine the brightness of him? So when he says that nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, in the Greek, this means world wars. Of course, there have been 2 world wars since Jesus was here. There shall be famine and pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. And today the earth is plagued with famine. It said it is estimated 15 million people die of malnutrition a year. That's a lot of people who are not getting the nourishment that they need. 15 million people. And of course, you know, a lot of these things have been going on for years. First World War was in 1914, so that is very sad. I agree. That's just very sad. And so people have been saying it's the end times for many, many years. I mean, do we really know? We're not going to know. He says we're not going to have any warning. Nobody knows but the Father when he's going to come back. He says that the love of most will grow cold. Exactly. And isn't that what's happening in today's world? People don't care about each other today as they did 20 years ago even. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Yeah. He says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. No one was ready for it. Everybody was living their life as if it was just another day. No warning. I mean, Noah, of course, had warning and he knew. And if anybody would have been paying attention to what he was doing, they should have had a warning. But, you know, people just don't pay attention to things like that. Think that you're ready? I hope I'm ready. I always say that, I hope, because wouldn't that be kind of a prideful thing for me to say, yes, I know I'm ready? I don't know. I used to always say, I hope. Because, you know, we can deceive ourselves just like other people can deceive us. We can deceive ourselves into thinking that we know more or are more or are ready more than we really are. All we can do is do the best we can do. And me too, Terry. Yeah, I just, you know, how do we really know? I mean, I'd like to think that I'm ready. I try to do the right things and the things that I'm supposed to do, but, you know, we all have our moments, don't we, that we are not all we're supposed to be. Let's see, AJ wrote, I like how he explained that we will have no idea there will be marrying and be giving in marriage up to the, exactly, just like in Noah's day. That's what I was just saying. Doing our best is all we can do, exactly. And I think if our heart is in the right place and we are doing our best, then God knows that. And that's all really we can do, because we are human after all, and sinful people, right? Anything anybody would like to add to that? Denise, have you started on your blanket yet? Not that I want to put you on the spot or anything, but I did already ask the question. You weren't here yet. I was just wondering if you're having any problems with it or if you're doing okay, is why the question was asked, in case you're wondering. Okay, so going on to chapter 25. I felt that chapter 25 kind of reminded us or gave it to us in a different way, the things that we're learning. In fact, I had to look and make sure that chapter 25 wasn't the last chapter in the book, which I didn't think it was, but I did have to double check anyway. I've tried to figure it out and failed miserably. I haven't had the time to focus on it. Well, Denise, when you're ready to try again, if you want to call me, please feel free to give me a call and I will help you. Have you watched the tutorial that Mikey did from the Crochet Crowd? I think he does a pretty good job, but it did take me a few tries to get it. Once you get it, though, Denise, you'll have it and it'll be no problem. But if you need to have me walk you through it or have questions or whatever, just send them to me and I will be more than happy to help you. Okay, so no, but I am going to. Okay, yeah. He does a really good job of, he goes a little fast, so I had to like pause it and go back and rewind a little bit to, because, you know, in the first, especially the first couple of rounds is a little bit of a challenge to get it right. But once you get it, it'll be easy. It's just a matter, just a matter of getting it. Okay, so we have what, 3 parables in this chapter 25? The parable of the 10 virgins. My opinion is that parable is just reminding us and showing us in another way that we need to be prepared and ready for his return. Which, we've already talked about. So I felt it was like a reminder, reinforcing it. The parable of the bags of gold, I felt like was kind of telling us that we need to work hard. That whatever we are doing, we need to do it the best we can. which is what I felt like the guys did. AJ wrote, that is what I took from it too. Do not be out looking for what you need. Yeah. Right. Because then you're going to miss it. Yeah. And the thing about the bags of gold, I just got that we need to work hard. We need to do what we were asked to do, or I don't know. What do you guys think of that one? So the only thing I could kind of come up with was that we needed to work hard, because the first guy and second guy, they worked and brought back double, whereas the third guy just kind of tucked it away and didn't get interest or anything. He just brought back what he got. That was not satisfactory. That did not satisfy. So he got in trouble. In fact, he lost it. It was given to the one who had the most. And he says that, and he said that before. I think AJ wrote about it earlier. And then the third parable about the sheep and goats, I felt like is really reinforcing the fact that we're supposed to live as Jesus did. He didn't go and ask people for things. He gave to people, and he gave to the people who needed his help. And what I write, help those less fortunate than ourselves. AJ wrote, I read them all, but only wrote things for the virgins. The other two just reminded me of what was right. So that's why I kind of questioned, was this the last chapter? Because I felt like we were kind of being refreshed on what we just kind of studied. But, I think that the Bible repeats itself on the things that we're really supposed to learn, so that we make sure we learn it and we don't miss it, maybe. So I do not have my pinwheels here. For those of you who have not seen my pinwheel yet, it's over on the other side of the room. I did not do any new ones. I still only have the 5 done. This is one of my favorite readings, The Least of Us. Yeah. AJ wrote, I felt that way all the way through, though. At the beginning, we had all the list. Then the parables that explained the list. Then these stories. And Denise said, to me it is. Yeah. And that concludes our reading for this week. We're almost done with this book. Denise wrote, it is something I take seriously in my life. Yeah, me too. I try to be very serious about it all. AJ wrote, I meant stories. than the parables. It is so important. We need to be told in various ways exactly. And I think that's the takeaway, really, is that we're told in one way, and then we're told in another way, and we're told in another way, so that everybody kind of can relate to some extent. And also, I think that, I know I've said this many times, that depending on where we're at any given moment depends on what stands out for us and what we get out of the reading at any given moment. And so by reinforcing all these things and in different ways, we're not going to miss something that's really important. Denise wrote, not judging and going with love. Yes. Now I'll hear, I live with a bunch of people who are not saved, and I hear them being critical of someone or criticizing or whatever, and I'll have to mentally say to myself, it's not my job to judge. I'm not here to judge. Somebody else has that job, and it's not mine. So, I try to be really careful about judging other people because, we've all been where others are, or maybe not exactly in that situation, but we've all made mistakes, and we've all done things in a way maybe we shouldn't have, or however you want to put it. It can be challenging to not judge. Is that what you're saying is challenging, Denise? None of my family is religious, and my brother gets mad at me and says that I think I am. Oh, yeah, I get that. That's what Tina said. Sorry. That is, yeah. That just seems to be the way they respond to us, that we think we're holier than them, or we think we're better than they are, or something to that extent. When, I don't know, I just feel like, it used to bother me when they said that, but it's now, I think it's a defense mechanism. They have to say that because they don't know how else to respond to us. Denise says to remember that it isn't my job. Exactly. Yeah. Especially when we're around people who are constantly doing it. Constantly. AJ Wright, it's hard as someone who is just learning. I know I used to judge, and my husband has taught me to trust in God, and I find myself judging and stopping and saying, no, I am not doing that. And that's, we have to be aware first, right? In order to change your behavior. And that's what you are. You're aware, you're learning, and you'll get better as time goes on. Denise says, my family is Catholic. It's hard not to remind them that being Catholic doesn't mean better. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, don't you think, how the Catholic religion seems to be so different than ours. So different. I have a sister who is sick. I find myself judging their judgment. Yeah. I was going to try to think of something for you to cover that instead of saying judging, but I'll let you handle that. It just takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. I mean, we've all done it for a good amount of our lives, and we just can't change overnight as much as we'd like to and think that it'd be easy. It's not easy. It's difficult. It's learning new behavior. It's learning a new way of thinking. And that's why we're all working on it together, right? Okay, so for those of you who haven't been here before, I am reading The Illustrated Words of Jesus for Women, a daily devotional. And I read whatever day it is that we're on. I read that day for our thing to conclude. AJ wrote, "Are you putting the new calendar up soon?" So, AJ, the calendar is up. So there's one tab that is the overview calendar that gives starting, ending, and makeup days. And then the other link is for the year. You just have to open February's and it's there, but it's already up there. If you have any problems, let me know. But people did have a few problems in the beginning, and I believe that I fixed it, but that doesn't mean it's really fixed. I know it is just following a chapter a day, but it helps me a lot to see it written out. I am enjoying finding the time to read every day. Yeah, I do it when I get up in the morning. I find that it helps me focus for the day. It gives me a good start to my day. And I mean, I often read, like I said, I read more than one time because I always read the first time through without making notes. And then I read again and I make notes. And if I feel like I didn't get enough notes or I might have missed something, then I'll do it again just to make sure that I feel like I did it good enough. I don't know. Yeah, so it is a chapter a day, Monday through Saturday. But at the end of each book, I have a review day. So that's just a day for you to kind of go back through your notes, see what you learned. Did anything stick out more for you now reading through those notes than when you wrote the note? It's just kind of to overview and summarize the chapter or the book so that, I don't know, kind of like to reinforce it, that's all. So anyway, that happens at the end of each book. I have a day just for that, to kind of review and reflect on what we learned from it. Okay, I did not see it, all of them. Yeah, because it's 1 month. Each month has their own page, and so maybe it didn't show up. Maybe that's why you just saw one page, but they should all be there. AJ wrote, I do it more in the middle. Oh, I tend to do it more in the middle. It helps me stop and calm down and then figure out what I have left to do. And that's the thing. We all have to figure out when is the best time for us. When do we get the most out of it? It's an individual thing. It's our learning. We're learning and studying for ourselves. And so we all need to figure it out, what works best for us. It just, because I live with my daughter and her 7 children, There's a lot of noise going on during the day, even at nighttime. And so the morning I wake up early. I can do my Bible study before anybody else in the house is up. It gives me a calming sense to start the day with, rather than getting woke up or waking up to them and their stress, and sets my mood for the whole day. So that's why I do it that way. Okay, so for January 30th, it says, trust like a child. Why did Jesus say that God's kingdom belongs to children? Perhaps because children easily trust and don't argue about every point or need to have things proven to them. As people grow up, they lose that childlike trust. Some adults question everything and demand God's immediate action. Therefore, no trust is shown. Childlike faith is much more pleasing to God because it is a faith that just trusts Him. How are you doing at trusting God? So the verse is Mark 10:14. Let the little children come to me, do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. And then on the bottom of the page, it says, in what part of life do you have the most trouble with trust? Why is that area so difficult? How can you begin with one small act of trust so that you take small steps to grow your trust? Now, of course, that's not an assignment. That is, just what this book says at the end. Sometimes it has a quote. Sometimes, apparently today, it has several questions and no author, but it's not a requirement for you to do this. Okay, so that's all we have for today. Thank you, all of you, for coming and joining me tonight. I do so appreciate it. And if you have any problems or questions, feel free to ask me, in a message or a message or a phone call. Trust like faith takes practice. Exactly. Thank you, Terry. Love you. Thank you, AJ. I love you too. Okay, so may God be with you all today and every day. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next live. Okay, good night, everyone. Bye.